Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very happy to invite you along to the launch today of the Bridge and the BridgeTech Industry Fellowships Program. We've got a number of participants that are still coming in. I can see the numbers are just increasing, but I think we're getting pretty close to it. So I think I can now officially say welcome, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. As I've mentioned, today is the launch of a new program, the Bridge and the BridgeTech Industry Fellowships Program, and this is supported by MTP Connect's REDI Program. I'll just start off by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land. I'm currently on QUT. We're all in slightly different places around Australia, but I'll acknowledge the traditional owners of the land where QUT stands and where others have stood across Australia, and acknowledge the important role of elders past, present and emerging. Just as a reminder, my name's Professor Lynn Griffiths. I'm the Executive Director of the Institute of Health and Biomedical Innovation at QUT, but I'm also the Director of the Bridge and the BridgeTech program. So welcome. I'll just start off by giving you a little bit of an overview of what you can expect this afternoon. So first of all, we'll have just this brief welcome and overview. We've got Dan Grant here with us today from MTP Connect to launch this particular program. So we're very lucky to have him with us here. We also will have some more details on the program, what it is, how you do applications, what is the opportunity that's part of this program. And then we've got some fantastic speakers after. So Erica Knife from ANU will be presenting on her thoughts in relation to higher education, the importance of fellowships and how they relate to commercialisation. We also have Anand Gotham from Pfizer, who'll be giving us a point of view from the pharmaceutical industry and drug development side. And also Stephen Kennedy from Cochlear will give us an overview from the medtech side and why it's important that we have fellowships that relate to industry. We'll have some opportunities for questions and answers at the end of this, plus there'll be a little bit of opportunity at the end of each of the speakers today as well. So just a reminder, we've got some fantastic speakers representing MTP Connect, ANU, Pfizer, Cochlear. So Anand representing our Bridge Consortium and Stephen representing our BridgeTech Consortium. So I'm so pleased to see so many people could join us today, and we'll be able to tell you about this program today. But I suppose just a little bit of housekeeping at the beginning. So all of our attendees are muted and your video is actually off, but you can ask questions at any time, and that's using the chat function that you'll see on the bottom of your screen. However, what we won't be doing is jumping into those questions during the time when individual speakers are speaking. But as I've mentioned, at the end of each talk, there'll be a little bit of time for a Q&A section there, and there'll also be a whole panel. We'll come back together at the end of this. So all questions, as they come up to you, feel free to put them up in chat, but just remember, I'll facilitate those questions after each speaker and at the end. Also, we've got some information there about joining the conversation on Twitter. And also, just for those who can't make it, or maybe you can't make the whole presentation today, we are recording this session and it will be uploaded onto our new REDI website. And there's information about that just there. So just a reminder, this is all about the Bridge and the BridgeTech programs. And this program, the REDI program that I'm going to mention today and will be discussed, is an extension of both the Bridge and the BridgeTech programs. But just as another aside, the Bridge program is a program that is run by a consortium of partners. It's been an opportunity for us all to work together, and it's a very collaborative consortium, but I do want to acknowledge all of the partners within that. So the partners are AbbVie, ACTI, Amgen, ANU, J&J and Janssen, Macquarie University, Medicines Australia, MSD, Novartis, Pfizer, Roche, University of New South Wales and UHARD. Programs supported by our industry partners, but also supported by MTP Connect, and QUT facilitates the running of the Bridge program consortium on behalf of that consortium. Similarly, the BridgeTech program is an industry-led initiative, and we've partnered with some very exciting industry partners for a number of years in this program as well. So I just want to acknowledge their role. So that's Siemens, Flinders and MDPP, Stryker, ANU, the University of Melbourne, University of Western Australia, Baxis, Gaydens, Macquarie University, the University of Newcastle, Bosch, Cochlear, LSQ, Acti, Magnetica, and Cylentropy. So as you can see, there's a significant number of partners here, again, supported by industry and by MTP Connect, with QUT facilitating this on behalf of our consortium partners. So this is really an exciting day because we're launching an extension of both the Bridge and the BridgeTech programs through the ability to be able to provide industry fellowships as part of the REDI program. And so what I want to do now is to call on Dr. Dan Grant, who's the CEO and Managing Director of MTP Connect, to give us an overview of the REDI program and this new opportunity. But just before I do that, I'll just tell everyone a little bit about Dan and his background. So Dan Grant has spent more than 25 years in senior roles in the pharmaceutical, higher education, and medical research sectors. Prior to joining MTP Connect, he was the inaugural Pro-Vice Chancellor for Industry Engagement at La Trobe University, where he had oversight of the university's innovation, commercialization, and industry engagement activities. He was also the Senior Director and Head of Pfizer's External Research and Development Innovation Group for ANZ Singapore, and also their Head of Open Innovation. Dan also sits on the Expert Advisory Panel for the MRFF Stem Cell Mission. And as a background to that, he also has a PhD in Cardiovascular Physiology and an MBA. So please, can we hand over and welcome Dr. Dan Grant.
Thank you, Lynn. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dan Grant. As Lynn said, I'm the Managing Director and CEO of MTP Connect. And MTP Connect is an industry growth center that was established in 2015 by the federal government to help accelerate the growth of Australia's medtech, biotech, and pharmaceutical sectors. MTP Connect has been proud to be one of the founding supporters of both the Bridge and the BridgeTech programs, initially through our Growth Center Project Fund, but subsequently through our BTV program, our MFR Medical Research Future Fund program, and now through our REDI program. It's fantastic to have been able to follow the journey of this industry-led consortium that has really done an awful lot to support education and training of Australia's pharmaceutical medtech industry professionals. And I am really delighted to be here today with you to help launch the new Bridge and BridgeTech REDI program. Just to give you a little bit of background about MTP Connect, as I mentioned, we're the Industry Growth Center. We operate at the nexus of all parties within our sector: companies, researchers, industry associations, governments, universities, investors, and regulators, all focused on delivering 4 key outcomes. We're working very hard to increase collaboration and commercialization across the sector. We work to improve access to global supply chains and international markets. We spend a lot of time working with the government and other bodies trying to optimize regulatory and policy environments to make sure that the sector is best set to grow. And of course, one of the key things we do is to help improve management and workforce skills. And that is the particular outcome that our REDI activities are focused upon. MTP Connect achieves our 4 outcomes in part by deploying funding from a number of key programs. And in this slide, I highlight 4 key programs that we are deploying or have deployed. Our $15.6 million project fund through the Department of Industry, Science, Energy, and Resources has been fully committed and supports 36 key projects. The Bridge and BridgeTech programs were supported initially by that fund. We also operate the Biomedical Technologies or Biomedtech Horizons program, a $45 million program funded by the Department of Health and the Medical Research Future Fund. This program is largely deployed, committing the $45 million to 39 projects supporting SMEs in Australia's medtech sector to help move their projects to proof of concept. Our $22.3 million BTB program, another MRFF funded program, again is fully committed, with recently announcing 11 new programs being supported, including 6 projects focused on COVID-19. And then the program we'll talk more about in a minute is REDI, a $32 million program. We do have a new program in our portfolio of offerings. So new, in fact, we haven't found a way to actually fit it on the previous slide, but that is our $47 million Diabetes and Cardiovascular Disease Accelerator Program, and a program funded under the MRFF Targeted Translational Research Accelerator Program, all focused on addressing the challenges of cardiovascular disease and diabetes in Australia. But today we're really here to talk about the REDI program. The Researcher Exchange and Development within Industry program, as I mentioned, is a Medical Research Future Fund initiative. It's a $32 million program that will span 4 years, focused purely on helping to improve workforce skills within the medtech, biotech, pharma, and digital health sector. REDI leverages the expertise of our research, training, and industry partners like the Bridge and BridgeTech program to drive skills development and workforce training necessary to keep pace with the rapidly changing sector. REDI has been built around 3 pillars. The first pillar, pillar 1 on the left, is a program of works that will work to expand our proven programs of workforce training. We've partnered with groups like And Health, the Digital Health Accelerator, IMNIS, the Industry Mentoring Network and STEM Group, the Medical Device Partnering Program, MDPP, and the MedTech Actuator to continue supporting them to deliver programs that are addressing known skills gaps within the sector. Pillar 2 in the middle is a program of works that will develop new training programs to address new skills gaps. We've already initiated 2 programs in that part of our program, a group of work that the George Institute for Global Health is undertaking to work on social entrepreneurship, and then a program of work that the Victorian Comprehensive Cancer Centre in Victoria is delivering to help improve workforce skills in our clinical trial sector. We're also undertaking a comprehensive skills gap analysis to identify areas where new programs can be deployed. Pillar 3 is probably the pillar that I'm most taken with and really think is important. And this is a pillar that is designed to generate industry placements and internships and fellowships. And it really is an important aspect of the REDI program, because it is within this pillar that we start to blur the boundaries between industry, researchers, and clinicians, and we get to bring them together to work together. Australia's medical technology, biotech, and pharmaceutical and digital health sectors support over 70,000 jobs in Australia and contribute more than $5 billion to our gross value add each year in Australia. And the future of that sector, the future of those economic outcomes and jobs is really dependent on the skills that the workforce has. We need to make sure that individuals are industry ready and that they have the skills needed to ensure that we can translate Australia's research into clinical and economic outcomes. And so the good news is I'm announcing today that our REDI program, through the Bridge and BridgeTech program, will be funding 20 competitive short-term fellowships for industry placement each year of the program. And the goal, as I mentioned, is really to help blur the lines between industry, research, and clinicians. Now, as Lynn mentioned, my career has spanned the pharmaceutical, higher education, and medtech sectors. I spent time in Pfizer, I've spent time as Pro Vice Chancellor, I've spent time as a researcher, and all of these different opportunities have given me invaluable professional experiences in research, innovation, and commercialization activities. But it's the understanding of industry that has really helped my career, and I strongly believe in the value of the REDI program and the programs that our REDI program partners are going to deliver, which will encourage researchers and life scientists, entrepreneurs to develop those skills needed to really translate the great research that we're doing in Australia into patient outcomes, ultimately economic outcomes and jobs growth. So Lynn, I want to end there really by thanking you and the QU team and the consortium that you work with in delivering great activities and outcomes through the Bridge and BridgeTech program. We're really looking forward to seeing both of those programs take a step forward with the new industry fellowship program. And as I said, we'll be looking for big things from the program. Thank you.
Okay, look, thank you so much, Dan. We will bring Dan back again a little bit later. We have a panel towards the end where we're going to invite Dan to join us with our other speakers. So in case there are any questions you might have for Dan, this is the time to think about them now, but save them for a little bit later. So what I want to do right now is move on to providing a little bit of an overview about the REDI program. And what I'll do here is just start off by just reminding people, and I think probably most of the participants that we have here today would be people who are in the Bridge and the BridgeTech program. So just looking here, what we have been doing is we've been running both of these programs for a few years now. So the BridgeTech program started in 2017. So we have probably about 300 alumni, about 100 a year from 2017, 18 and 19. And we have about the same number of current participants. So in up, we've got about 300 alumni and about 100 current participants. What we try and do is we try and track, well, commercialization training is only as good as the outcomes from that training. And so for those who are current participants and even those who are alumni, what we try and do is to track how has this program actually helped in your commercialization journey. So just as an example here, this is some information that we've obtained from 2017 and 2018 cohort with a little bit of a follow-up from the 2019 cohort. But from that, you can see that individuals involved in the program have led to 17 patents, 15 startups, 10 new licenses, 10 new clinical trials, 23 have commented on career development directly relating to some of the networks they've been able to develop as part of the Bridge program, 6 who've been involved in incubators, 20 have secured funding, 23 have pitched to investors, 5 have gone on to produce actual specific new products, and 18 R&D contracts. So I think what you can see here is that we're starting to make some impact. This is not the sort of thing that you could do in a month or two. And obviously, particularly out there for our current Bridge participants, we need to keep following up with people so we're aware of what's actually happening on their commercialization journeys. So that information I think is good, but just remember we're still in contact with all of our alumni and we're always very keen to find out what are you doing and what impact has this had and how has this actually helped. Very similarly with the BridgeTech program, this has been running not quite as long. It was something that started the year after. So this is just information just from our 2018 cohort and was taken at the first post-survey 9 months after. And from that, just that single year cohort, and for those who may not be aware, we currently have about 160 alumni from the BridgeTech program and have about 80 current participants. So just looking at that very first year of 80 participants, in the year that followed, 5 of those had initiated or completed an R&D contract, 3 of them had initiated or completed a patent, 8 were involved in pitching to investors, 4 had begun discussions with incubators, 4 had initiated or completed a preclinical or a clinical trial, 2 had launched new products, and 4 were involved in the development of a new startup. So even just directly after, you can see that there's some outcomes starting to happen here, but clearly we will be continuing to contact all of our alumni to see how things are actually going in their future. But thinking in relation to that and those alumni and our current participants, what I want to talk about today is the opportunity that the REDI program is bringing to our Bridge and BridgeTech alumni and participants. So as Dan mentioned, the REDI program is the Researcher Exchange and Development Within Industry Initiative. It's a $32 million initiative and it's supported by the MRFF but administered by MTP Connect. And what we have here is a program that will focus on developing skills and training for Australia's medtech, but biotech, pharma and digital health sectors. So as you're aware, the Bridge and the BridgeTech REDI program will enable the REDI initiative by providing funded industry fellowship opportunities for our Bridge and BridgeTech current participants, alumni, and associated participants. I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about that. Just as a reminder, there are 3 pillars of the REDI initiative that was outlined by Dan, and the REDI program that relates to Bridge and BridgeTech fits in this 3rd pillar. So we're sitting under the industry placements, internships, and fellowships pillar. We then look at how this will actually affect us. What this will mean is that we'll be able to offer Bridge and BridgeTech industry fellowships as industry placement fellowships. We'll be running these between 2020, so starting this year, right up to 2024. There'll be a round each year, so 4 rounds in total. We'll be offering 20 $10,000 funded fellowships, and they'll be selected for each of these rounds, 20 per year. 10 for Bridge associated participants, more with the pharmaceutical drug development industry, and 10 for BridgeTech associated participants, so more with the medical devices, medical technology, and medical diagnostics. It will be a competitive selection process, and there'll be an application that, if you're interested in submitting, can be submitted through the new Bridge and BridgeTech REDI website online application portal. And so you'll note that that's there. The selection process will involve key industry partners and organisations as part of our selection panel for this. So our consortium member industry partners and organisations will actually play a key role in selecting the most competitive fellowship applications to go forward. Just looking at these, so the fellowships could be international or domestic focus. And of course, I'm well aware that at the moment travel is a bit restricted, certainly internationally, and even nationally can be quite restricted as well. So it may need to involve some remote or virtual if it's required. And that could be of particular importance for this first year. It will involve a placement within an industry organisation or company, and or participation in an industry-sponsored incubator accelerator. In terms of application, so applicants can suggest a specific or preferred industry placement partner, or they could submit an EOI, which will then be matched to suitable partner organisations. So we can actually help with that matching if required, but you're also welcome to identify a preferred industry placement or partner. In terms of the funding that will be provided, the fellowship funding can be used to support travel, accommodation, or other placement costs that are relevant to the fellowship, subject to obviously some terms and conditions and the agreement with the industry sponsor for that. The sorts of activities that could be facilitated could include industry training and discussion and mentoring in relation to things like regulatory requirements or IP protection, prototyping, business planning, market development, startup strategies, and commercialization plans. So it's up to the individual and the specific area that they're interested in and the particular component of their career and where they're up to as to the sorts of things that might be relevant in their application. The fellowships must be for a minimum of 3 to 6 weeks, but they could also be longer than that as well. So in terms of how we will look at those applications, successful applicants will be selected based on suitability, and this could be in relation to potential placement partners, stage of career and development possibilities, and the commercial potential of the research and the technology that they're involved in. Applicants, as I've mentioned, can bring forward an industry placement idea or opportunity or submit an expression of interest to be facilitated and matched with an industry partner from our significant Bridge and BridgeTech network. In terms of the key dates, well, today is the first key date. So today is the launch of the program. So the Bridge and BridgeTech REDI program is launching today, and our application portal is open today. It will stay open until the 16th of October, so 2020, and that will be for round 1 this year. What we'll then do is, as I've mentioned, we'll have a selection panel that will look at all applications, and the fellowships will be awarded between November and December this year, with partners either from the selected prescribed ones that came forward, or else partners matched if necessary for each of those fellowships awarded. The fellowships will then need to be taken up and completed by the 30th of June 2021. We are aware it's a bit of a tough time at the moment in terms of COVID-19, so there may have to be some consideration around things like travel plans. People might indicate that they are very keen on going overseas to a particular partner, but it may not be possible depending on travel arrangements at the time. So there may need to be some virtual arrangements, whether it be nationally or internationally. However, just keep that in mind when you're actually putting forward to think about what's the best and the preferred industry partner and how we can actually facilitate that at the moment. So this could be a bit of a tougher year, but there are definitely ways to still do this. In terms of the applications themselves, as I've mentioned, they're open today from the 16th of September, and there's information there about how to apply. The sorts of people that we're looking for, it's really targeted to those who have undertaken Bridge or BridgeTech programs as an alumni or a participant, or perhaps you've been associated with the Bridge or BridgeTech program through being an Australian mid-career researcher or clinician or entrepreneur associated with some other industry in the medtech or the pharmaceutical area. So I think that's probably most of the things that I want to tell you, but if you do have some questions, we will be able to answer some more towards the end here. Oops, sorry, but there is also some key information here and contact details. If you do want to send some questions, there's an email address here, and as I've mentioned, the website is now up and live, and the expressions of interest are up there as well. So these are fellowships. These are competitive. We're going to give out 20 of those, and we're going to give them out this year. All Bridge and BridgeTech alumni and current participants are eligible to apply, and we're happy to help facilitate an appropriate industry partner, but we're also happy to go with ones that you can actually identify as well. So feel free to provide any questions to us in relation to applications, but I think what we should be doing now is just looking at, well, why is it important to actually be looking at internships or industry placements or fellowships? And so what we've got here now are three speakers who'll have three different points of view as to why they think fellowships are an important thing for industry and research and connections, and how this is important for commercialization and for translation. So what I want to do now is to hand over to the first of these, and this is Erica Knipe. So she will be the first speaker, who will give us a bit of a background from both an academic, but also from a bit of a government background as well, in terms of why it's important to do this. So I'll just give you a little bit of a background about Erica now. Before I hand over, though, I will remind everyone that you can put up questions anytime that you like, and I can see that there's one there now. But what we will be doing is keeping those questions towards the end of the panel at the end. And so any questions that you have, feel free to use the chat function, and I'll help facilitate those questions towards the end. So just to let you know a little bit about Erica now. So Erica Knipe's experience spans all levels of government, private and the not-for-profit health sectors in Australia, and she's known for her passion for evidence-based policy development and the research praxis. She's recently joined the Australian National University after a decade in Commonwealth Health, supporting a number of national portfolios and ministers. She was instrumental in establishing the Medical Research Future Fund and the Biomedical Translation Fund, and worked with states to position Australia as a preferred destination for clinical trials. Erica now works to enhance ANU medicine, population health, and psychology research from discovery to translation in collaboration with key academic, industry, government, and consumer stakeholders and funders. So I'm just going to hand over now and welcome Erica, and thank you very much for joining our webinar today.
Thank you, Lynn. Great. I think I have control. Here I do. Yep. Great. Thank you very much, Lynn, for that lovely introduction. And thank you to the team at QUT as well as MTP Connect for realizing the REDI program. And it sounds like a very exciting opportunity for Bridge and BridgeTech participants. And with a month to go to apply, time to get your skates on. So I've only got a few slides that I want to walk through just to provide some context about higher education and what a program such as REDI can mean for higher ed. Just trying to get to the next slide. Go. Oh gosh. Sorry folks, there is a bit of a delay in the slide deck. So while I'm going back to the first slide, I just also want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands upon which we Zoom and elders past and present. And also acknowledge that ANU is a proud consortium member of both Bridge and BridgeTech. Right, so I just wanted to give a bit of context to this particular Medical Research Future Fund initiative. Some of you may recall, maybe you don't, but in 2016, the federal government released an industry growth plan for the health and medical sector. And it looks pretty much like this. And it was one of a few that got announced at that time under the Turnbull government. Basically to acknowledging in a significant way the importance of the MTP sector in terms of stimulating economic growth, jobs and growth, and driving an innovation future. At that time, this industry growth plan came on the back of the NISA, which was the National Innovation Strategy, the first policy that Malcolm Turnbull released. I've highlighted in the growth plan a number of initiatives which are out now, actually all under the management of MTP Connect, which is exciting because these 4 initiatives actually need to work in tandem and they're all meant to be complementary. And I think with the emergence of the REDI program, we've got even more complement happening. And as Dan said, work to blur the lines between academia and industry. But the other thing I want to point out too is that there were some pretty ambitious goals to be achieved by 2030, including growth and jobs. And if you look at the MTP Connect competitiveness plan for 2019, we're tracking in the right direction to hit that target. So another background document within the landscape at the time that REDI was being conceptualized was obviously we had the Innovation in Science Australia established, and they released a 2030 report about prosperity through innovation. And in this report, launched in 2017, education was identified justly as a key determinant of worker capability and economic productivity and innovation capability. And the sort of conceptual Venn diagram map here, it sees education linking with industry, government, and R&D, circling around the need for a culture that's ambitious and innovative and always looking beyond the horizon. And I think I really like this diagram because it shows the interconnecting parts. And I suppose in here is where all the blurring needs to happen and all the sparks that hopefully many of you are participating and contributing to. So in the context of that 2030 plan, I want to just give some comments about, knowledge creation. Australia is pretty good at knowledge creation, but we could do a lot better in transfer and application. And this is where I think programs such as REDI can come in and help lift us. In terms of creation, comparatively, we are often referred to as a nation that's a powerhouse. That we have a big publication bang for our size, and obviously we can be referred to as an ideas nation. We've got many research institutes that are trending upwards in terms of their rankings. and we've got some pretty impressive research matrix. And we value education as a nation. In fact, nearly half of our spend is on medicine, health, biology, and engineering. And increasingly so, STEM is very, very important. I think that's evident in some of the interesting policies that are on the table at the moment around higher ed. And we have a high rate of graduation from higher degrees by research, which is impressive for the size. But when it comes to knowledge transfer, although we have 40% of our working age Australians have a tertiary education, maybe we don't harness that as well as we should. The collaboration between research and business communities is generally weak. There are issues around mobility between academia and industry. And a lot of that, from my perspective, stems from the lack of incentives. They're two distinct cultural worlds. If time is taken out of an academia career trajectory to go and work in industry, it's not necessarily valued when you go back and try to get promoted to associate professor. So there's sort of, defined sovereign nations on both sides, and REDI is designed to sort of break down those barriers, I believe. And we also have a lot of untapped vocational education and training. Are we producing industry-ready candidates to create that jobs and growth? And only through collaboration with industry, both in terms of projects and innovations and entrepreneurship, but also in terms of education, can we actually ensure that we produce people ready and able to help progress our sectors. And when it comes to application, we as a nation, we've got an emerging startup movement with lots of growth potential. And in fact, the Biomedical Translation Fund, if it's done anything, it's helped to stimulate that venture capital sector that we've been nurturing in Australia for many years. But we have some deficits in entrepreneurial training and experiences. A lot of commercialization, as you're probably learning through these programs, Bridge and BridgeTech, is about appreciating other markets and understanding how to apply some of that into our own Australian market or to navigate the international market. So that's something that we need to work on a little bit more. And some would argue that our degree of novelty versus is not as strong as it could be, that there may be more focus on adoption and adaptation of existing technology. And so how do we get that cutting edge happening across the sort of research application network? And to be honest, with the rise of the MRFF, there's a tension between discovery and translational research. We've created a research sort of funding environment that has been historically dominated by investigator-driven research through the likes of NHMRC and ARC. But MRFF has come onto the floor, the dance floor, and it's about priority research and translationable research predominantly. So there's a tension between a sense of one is valued over others, but you've got to keep the entire pipeline primed. You need discovery to keep moving the pipeline along, and how are we going to balance that moving forward is an issue that we've got to think about in terms of application. So this is my last slide, and I'm glad to see the three pillars are being reinforced through REDI in almost every deck. I just think it's a great way that the program's been conceptualized, and to see it rolling out, especially interested to see how the skill gap analysis contributes to our understanding of how we can bring academia and industry closer together. I just have a couple of closing remarks to make, and one is that I've been at ANU for just a year now. From where I sit, universities need the perspective of industry and can benefit from greater connection with end users, so that they can actually tailor their work and tailor their investigations, because exposure and exchange helps researchers to realize the potential of their own work. That programs such as REDI can provide a deeper appreciation of the needs and the problems that need to be solved, and therefore target research efforts, which is really important as we enter a period of post-pandemic thriftiness. that the demand for translational research is likely to become more accentuated as the global economy sort of contracts. There'll be potentially limited taxpayer dollars out there to fund, and they'll want to fund more targeted research. That the academic and the funding landscape is changing. In fact, today ANU has just announced a number of further job cuts, and we're not the only institution in town that is contracting. And so academic life is changing, and there's a need to diversify as well too. And that industries, both our industries, academia and the medtech pharmaceutical industry, can benefit from exchange and appreciation of what both can contribute. And as I say to researchers at ANU, category 1 is lovely. It's a lovely, this is like, you know, the likes of ARC, NHMRC, and MRFF funding as a category of income coming into a university. It's lovely, but it is always ever going to be capped. Category 2, 3, and 4, which are more, you know, away from government funding, are more involved with industry procurements and partnerships. That potential is totally uncapped. And if we want research to continue, then we need to be collaborating as effectively as possible and looking to adjust some of those incentives about how we value research and promotion in academia. So I will close there and hand back to Lynn. And again, thank you very much to the QU team for allowing me to participate in this launch. And ready, set, go.
Okay, look, thank you so much, Erica. That was a fantastic overview, and you're absolutely right. It's terribly important that we think about diversification at the moment. So researchers at universities need to look at how they can diversify their funding sources, but also how they can translate their research. And that's why it's so important to engage with industry. So on that note, we could take a question for Erica if there was one, but I think at this stage, we've only had one at this stage, and I assume that most will come back towards the panel session at the end. So I think we might leave those towards the end. Oops, we have got one question here. Okay, I think this is probably more relevant to the panel. Thank you for that question, Brian, and also thank you, Jacob, but I'll keep both of those towards the end, where we'll bring in all sorts of people who can answer those questions. And so what I'll do is now introduce our last speaker, and this represents the BridgeTech Consortium. So I'm going to now introduce Stephen Kennedy. So Stephen is the Global Head of Regulatory Affairs for Cochlear. He's a global leader in implantable hearing solutions and has been a key Cochlear is a global leader in implantable hearing solutions and has been the key company at the forefront of Australia's medical device sector for almost 40 years. Stephen has worked at Cochlear for more than 18 years, holding roles in product development, manufacturing, quality, and regulatory. In his current role as Global Head of Regulatory Affairs, Stephen is responsible for ensuring that Cochlear obtains approvals for its new product pipeline and maintaining registration across the 100 plus countries where the devices are marketed. So I just want to welcome and thank Stephen for joining us and for giving us his view on behalf of the BridgeTech Consortium. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you, Lynn. So yeah, thank you very much for giving us the opportunity today to talk. And Cochlear has been a member of the BridgeTech program since it started in 2018. Lynn and I had some discussions, I think, late 2017, and Cochlear has been quite happy, very happy to be involved with that program since then. And I really do think that it does offer a great chance for researchers, entrepreneurs to really get a better understanding of the commercial aspects of what would require to move into the commercial space. And certainly also believe that this REDI program offers an excellent opportunity for people to expand what the BridgeTech and Bridge programs actually are at the moment, and provide more opportunity for those researchers and entrepreneurs to get a bit of a foothold on the commercial department or environment as well. So I'll just start off with a little bit of history about Cochlear, just so you can understand some of the context of what I'll talk about in the next few slides as well. So for those who don't know, Cochlear is a direct result of commercialisation of research, Australian research. The picture on the right there is Professor Graham Clark, who during the 1970s was researching in the University of Melbourne. That was translated through a government program into a commercial product in the early 80s. And then for the last 40 or so years, Cochlear has continued to manufacture out of Sydney. It's where primarily our headquarters, our global headquarters are based, and probably about 90% of our revenue is generated through implants and sound processors that are manufactured through there. Cochlear does pride itself on innovation, and it's one of the 3 pillars within our mission statement, and we continue to invest heavily in R&D annually. The 12% that's listed there has been fairly stable for the last few years, even with the global crises that have happened over the last 10 or so years. Cochlear has prided itself to be a leader within the industry and continues to push technology boundaries and try to provide our customers the best possible products for the future. With the roots with the University of Melbourne, Cochlear has continued to maintain those links with many universities across Australia as well. QUT, obviously, with a couple of programs, University of Wollongong, Sydney, UNSW, RMIT. There's a range of different universities for particular programs, and probably many that I'm not aware of as well. There's also a fair bit of global research that happens. We do have sites in Sweden, in Belgium, in Basel, in Switzerland as well. And we do run research in those places too, and we do connect with universities in those areas, and again there's government programs that we tap into there. So it is a global network of researchers that we have, and product development pipelines that come from different places in the world. Also, Cochlear does have quite a well-established graduate program within Australia, so primarily in Sydney and Brisbane, where our manufacturing sites are located. Annually we take on probably about 30 or so summer students, and that's undergraduates who are looking to move into a graduate position, and choose around 5 or so from that. But I do think that this REDI program could be an excellent opportunity for us to experience people with a different skill set than we've currently been used to with those graduates to come in and really just provide some value for Cochlear. So then just some benefits that we can definitely see for both sides, industry and also the research and entrepreneur areas. Number one is that businesses always have more ideas than they have resources for. So there's always things that could be done which would be nice and potentially very valuable to do, but because of budget constraints, headcount constraints, other issues that are coming up, there's just always more things that we would like to do than we possibly can. So these fellowships, internships are a fabulous way of getting the benefit for the company to be able to provide some additional resource for a short period of time, potentially, a very focused, targeted way to be able to move ahead on some particular projects. And I think in particular, the skill set that some of the researchers and entrepreneurs could provide is certainly a new way of thinking in some of the problems that we have, a new set of eyes, new mind, and certainly new energy potentially to be brought into tricky problems and to provide some focus and hopefully as part of a team be able to push forward through that challenge, that problem that may have posed to the business for quite some time. And obviously a key benefit which is going to be for the fellowship or the internee is just exposure to the business environment, the different problems that are faced, the way metrics are presented and measured, decisions being made, the pace of the work, really as well, and probably most importantly is the communication flows, how businesses operate, where the information flows down, how they need to be able to network, what tools are available within different companies. And I mean, all companies are a little bit different, but I do think that any opportunity to get exposed for any period of time to a company is going to add a fair bit of value to anyone who may not have been exposed to that so far. But those benefits that we just talked about there obviously need to have some considerations involved, otherwise we won't reap any of the the potential benefits there. Number one, and this is probably a fairly key one, is 3 to 6 weeks isn't long, in anyone's life, but certainly within, the business environment with things changing fairly rapidly. It needs, in my mind, a fair bit of preparation on both sides to be fully effective there. So, both the company needs to be set up very well to ensure that the person comes in, is inducted as quickly as possible to what's required, and can get into the work very fast. And similarly on the interns side, to have some background knowledge about what they're going into, to have done a little bit of research, and hopefully have that information provided to them by the company, so that everyone's on the right foot forward on day one. There's plenty of cases now where, for example, a new inductee, a permanent inductee, we would expect it may take 4 weeks or so to get fully up to speed with the issues, with the environment that they're working in, with their teammates, with the network that they need to establish. So, we don't obviously want a fellowship person or an internee to take that long to get up to speed. So it needs good commitment on both sides to make sure that none of those barriers are in the way. I think as well, really important is to make sure that we can match the right project to the intern. I think Lynn talked before about some of the way in which the applications would come in, but I do believe matching the right company to the application is really important to ensure that we get a really good outcome there. So if let's say that the internee walks away at the end because they didn't quite get what they wanted out of the project, and that was because the project wasn't quite lined up with what they wanted, or it wasn't explained in the scope up front, then that will not be a good experience for them, and we're not going to get some of the benefits that were being talked about earlier on in the other presentations as well. Finally, I think it is really important in the current environment of uncertainty as well to make sure that we have some flexibility and some backup options. I talked about being able to hit the ground running, but also the business environment changes a fair bit. Also, people, the internal fellowship person's life may change fairly dramatically just with the COVID situation that's going on at the moment as well. And I think we do need to make sure that both sides can be flexible in the approach going forward, and potentially have some backup options if something doesn't quite pan out at the time when they were due to start. There's plenty of cases, for example, where someone may want to be coming into the business. It's a project that's ready to start, and for some reason a report has been delayed. A key critical piece of information isn't ready for them, and you don't want 3 of those 6 weeks, for example, for the person sitting around not working on the thing that they were fully engaged to be working on to begin with. So again, flexibility on starting times and possibly some backup projects, I think, are really key to make sure these things are successful. And that's it from me, Lynn. I'm very happy to talk on some more questions and things like that might come through the panel as well, if necessary.
Look, thank you so much, Stephen. I think that was fantastic to get your point of view and to get Cochlear's point of view as well, but also the representation of the BridgeTech program and area as well. So now we have got some question time here. We've got a number of questions here that have cropped up, but what I will do is to bring on all of the panelists back to this question time as well. Also mention that if we don't get to all of your questions today, or basically don't get to all of the questions that you might have later on, there is an avenue to provide those questions to the email address that was just up here a minute ago, and you can also find on our website as well. So I'll just go through a couple of questions here, and quite a number of those relate to the actual program. But yes, here's the program details for everyone. So if we don't get to all your questions or you think of one later, please feel free to use this. So just a couple of things here. So of course, what we're doing is launching a new program now. There's going to be a lot of questions about who can apply and who perhaps can't apply, but probably the most important thing to think about would be this is the Bridge and the BridgeTech REDI program. So it really is geared up to those who have done Bridge or BridgeTech, who are alumni or who are past participants and or current participants. So the question here is, can people who have not had an association with Bridge or BridgeTech apply? It will be focused primarily on those who've done Bridge or BridgeTech, so that's past or current participants. However, We've also said associates. So it might be that you've attended a number of our events, because sometimes we invite other people at some of our networking events for both Bridge and BridgeTech events. Could be you're working with one of the industry partners already, or you have some connection with them who is part of our consortium. Could be that you're part of a startup. So this is why we've been a little bit broad there and said associates. So definitely should have some linkage and some connection and understanding of what the Bridge and the BridgeTech program is. And probably the emphasis would be on those who have done it, because it's really for taking them that step further and extending it. Either that, or you've had some significant interest or connection with Bridge or BridgeTech. But I will point out that each year we take Bridge and BridgeTech participants. And so each year we take at least 100 participants into the Bridge program and at least 80 into the BridgeTech program. And we'll be doing so for the next few years. And similarly, this Bridge and BridgeTech REDI Fellowship program will be running for the next few years as well. So if perhaps you've had no connection, you've never heard of Bridge and BridgeTech, but you did come along to today, I can encourage you to look at the area of your interest. Is it the Bridge program, which is really in the pharmaceutical industry connection side and drug development? Or is it the other side, medical devices or diagnostics or technology? To have a good look at the two programs and to consider applying, because we'll be asking for applications towards the end of this year for both programs for next year. So if perhaps you haven't done it, there might be some benefits in having a good look at it, or talking to some of your colleagues who have done it and consider coming in next year or the year after as well. Probably another question that we have here was, again, related to applications. So will part-time placements be possible? Yes, we've said 3 to 6 weeks. It could be longer. And of course, it could be part-time. If that fits in with your personal circumstances, that makes perfect sense as well. So there will be some flexibility around that. I've probably got another question here that I'll throw to Dan, who I think is probably I've just lost all my questions here, the most relevant one to this. So this is a question that came in a bit earlier this afternoon from Brian Hill. And so he said here, as a founder in health tech, tackling a stubborn social problem made worse in COVID-19. The area that he tends to work is not seen as investable by VC and industry, and consumers are wary of a commercial entity, meaning that we need to explore entity structures for social impact. So how is the Pillar 2 work associated with REDI program tackling some of the social impact pathways for delivering impactful research translation? That's putting you on the spot there, Dan.
Well, look,
started.
It's a very good question from Brian, and Brian, thanks for the question. Pillar 2 was really designed to develop programs to address gaps in skills that aren't currently being addressed by other programs. And in fact, as we set up Pillar 2, we recognized that social entrepreneurship, social impact were key areas that weren't being adequately addressed by other business accelerator programs like the Actuator and Ant Health and whatnot within our program. So we've contracted with the George Institute for Global Health, as I mentioned, to specifically focus on running an accelerator program that will help social entrepreneurs address all of those issues. And so that's why we partnered with the George. We think it is a challenging area, not only social entrepreneurship as it relates to addressing third world country issues and concepts of frugal innovation and whatnot, but also social impact and those types of activities within Australia. So the George has a strong background in that. They've been working on a number of programs, including their polypill program, huge number of clinical trials run in third world countries, but also their dialysis machine that they've created, which is really a social impact program. And so we think that the work that the George is going to do for us through their 10X Accelerator program will help address Brian's questions. Now they have a separate application process, and I'd encourage you to go onto the George website to see when that program is open. I think they've actually filled their cohort for this year, but they'll be running programs each year.
Okay, thanks so much, Dan. We've got a question here from Padma Murthy, who indicates that she has, or has an industry relationship with a specific pharmaceutical company and would like to strengthen this relationship and continue working with them, and they're in Denmark, would I be able to apply for a REDI fellowship support? Absolutely. This is what this is about. We're looking at how people can, maybe you know of, or you started to do something with industry, but this allows you to become immersed with industries, to actually work with them. Anand, I can see you looking positive about that. So would you like to comment on this? You see REDI being part of this this process?
No, I think in principle, yes. I think Denmark, I don't know which company Padma is talking about, but I think, there's so much going on in Denmark itself, like Novo Nordisk, Leo, etc. companies, Lundbeck. So there's so much substrate for young people to learn there. I spent 10 years there, and I think it's a buzzing area. I think you can learn a lot from Danish industry, to be honest. And each of the states in Australia are equal to the size of Denmark. So I think it's a good idea of Padma to explore. And I think we should prioritize those small countries that are doing really well, rather than just relying on the United States all the time.
Thanks, Anand. Here's another question. This is from Hanson to all panelists. I might have missed this earlier, but in order to apply for the REDI program, do I have to be working on a project that has a potential for translation commercialization? So the fellowship is used to work on your project while you're being mentored by pharma or by medtech. Or is it possible to apply to learn more from pharma and medtech on how to do the day-to-day business, learn about licensing, learn about commercialization aspects? Is it also possible to do the program for more than 6 weeks? There's a lot of questions there, Hanson. So yes, you could do more than 6 weeks. It clearly says a minimum of 3 to 6 weeks. That's the first thing. So longer is absolutely fine. The second thing is, yes, obviously we're interested in translation and commercialization, and that's what both the Bridge and the BridgeTech program are involved in. But one does need to learn how to do this. And that's why working with industry, one can understand a lot more by actually seeing how they do things. And I think when we looked at Stephen's presentation just now, he talked about specific projects, but he also talked about learning things and mentoring and actually being able to engage in different aspects with an industry partner. So it doesn't have to be a specific commercialization project, but it does have to be part of that commercialization pathway. And in your application, you can define what are the key things that you want to focus on that. I'll just open it up to the other panelists. Stephen or Erica, do you have any other comments you'd like to throw at that?
If there's a particular project or subject matter area where you're really interested in, and the business can be aligned, or a business could be aligned with that as well, that's going to be the best situation in the end. It might not be a commercialization thing right now. It might be some research into a particular field that's fairly new, or it might be applying some research that you've already done into an area that you think a business would benefit from, or it might even be applying a particular technique that you've learned or recently been using, and you think other parts of industry could use it for a period of time as well. So I think the most benefit is going to be there if it's going to be practical and applicable, and it's something that you're excited about and the business is going to benefit from as well. And that's where the best learning environment is going to come through.
Erica, do you have anything to add here?
No, I think that's answered. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Dan, do you have anything? You comfortable with this area?
Yeah, look, I think so. I would like to perhaps go back to one of the other comments that was made just, before we run out of time, which is the 3 to 6 week period being a short period. And I do want to flag that the Bridge and BridgeTech REDI program is specifically designed to address those shorter internship fellowship situations where people may not have a sufficient period of time to go away and work with an organization for a year or more. There will be other parts of REDI that address those longer stage fellowships. And those will be focused, pardon me, on having people embedded in industry for a year or more. That'll be announced probably in October, November as we set up the program. It's early days, but the intent of those is really to work with companies in this case, companies like Cochlear, who may already have connections with people. And I think one of the I can't remember who it was, if it was Padma has a relationship with Fairing. Well, it would be open to Fairing in Denmark to approach us to ask for a fellowship for Padma to go and work with them. So where there's an existing relationship, it's pretty easy to make those connections. All right. So there are other programs out there to address those longer term fellowships. There'll be some things that we're doing in REDI that address even shorter interactions with industry, like the IMNIS program, where we're getting people to have mentors and things like that. So it's sort of horses for courses.
Okay. A few questions that have come up in relation to the 3 to 6 week period, so I think that's worth highlighting. The other thing is it could be a bit longer. That we've just said that is a minimum, probably not going up to about a year with what we're saying here, and there may be other programs. There's a couple of other questions here that have come in. Anand, there was one here which is really looking at some of the observations that you made. So great observations about Anand about building biotechs of scale. What conditions are needed in Australia to compete or differentiate with Boston and San Diego? Where do you see structural differentiation and gaps that hold us back? Yep.
Then I missed your the word I missed what? What's needed? Yeah.
What conditions are needed in Australia? Sorry.
All right, what conditions? Yeah, so thanks for asking. It's actually a key question, and I think we all in the panel have been thinking about what are the key conditions. We all agree that we have a wonderful science. We all said that, but we also, in our own words, said that we are poor in translation. And I think initiatives like MRFF and others, government has done a wonderful job, I must say, over the last 10, 12 years in terms of putting money where it should. I think the key conditions that we are missing is realizing what is our key strengths, and do we have the talent to take it to the level, at least to IND-enabled studies, if we talk about drug development. I think so. What we need to do is to make sure that we create a talent pool, real talent pool that comes from anywhere in the world, not just from Australia, to take us to the stage where we can seriously start phase 1, 2, 3 clinical trials on our own innovation. We are very good at doing clinical trials on drugs from Pfizer, Merck, Novartis. No question about that. We are very good in doing clinical trials for investigators-initiated trials, but we are very poor in innovative phase 1, phase 2 of our own. And I say that not because that we're not doing those phase 1, phase 2 clinical trials in Australia, it's that nothing is really moving in the pipeline towards registration, very little out of 150 odd companies that are currently trying to develop new drugs. So this is the current status, and that's what government has realized, and that's what we're all working for, that we need to lift our game seriously. And only way we can do it is to create conditions where we have real people who have had real experience in real drug development, rather than just realizing that we can do clinical trial.
Thanks, Anand. We've got a couple of other questions. I'm mindful of time, so I'm trying to zip through a little bit here. But one of them was, can the program be used to facilitate career transition from academia to industry by training early or mid-career researchers in industry? This really is about immersion in industry. It may lead to career transition at some stage, but it's not aimed at a career transition sort of necessary pathway. It's really aimed at how we can gain sufficient knowledge to facilitate commercialization and translation in Australia for both of these major industries. But that's not to say career transition may not happen in relation to that, because obviously when you're exposed to industry, you may find that this is actually an area that works quite well with your particular background. So as Dan has indicated, there are a number of people who can move around from different parts. I just want to remind people, though, that this really is about commercialization, and it really is focused on Bridge and BridgeTech alumni and participants, and giving them that opportunity to work with industry and to learn from industry so that that can facilitate this. So there's a couple of questions that then relate to the sort of people that are applying. Is the REDI program fellowship restricted to pharma companies, or would university tech transfer units be considered just as well? At this stage, it's an industry fellowship program, so we're looking at placement in industry. So we're not saying that you don't learn a lot from being in tech transfer offices, but this one really is an industry placement. So I think will be, as part of the application process, you'll see that it's important to either designate a specific industry partner to be working with, or for us to help match an appropriate industry partner. So I think we'll be a little bit, not to say you can't put it in an application, but I think the priority would be on those that facilitate industry placements. Another question here was, would Tech Transfer Office BD rather than academics be eligible for a REDI fellowship? We have a number of Tech Transfer Office BD people who have done Bridge and BridgeTech as alumni and as current participants, and many of those people are involved in the commercialisation process. So learning from industry actually could facilitate commercialisation from academia and universities. So I don't think there'll be a hard and fast no on that one at all. I think what we've got here is, if there's a specific in the application defined why industry placement would actually facilitate the process of commercialisation and how it could be used, that's a possibility. And I'll just go back to Jacob Ross's question, who was the first person to ask a question and then came back again and said, sorry, I missed the answer. And that was, his very first question was relating to Bridge and BridgeTech. So can people who've not had an association with Bridge and BridgeTech still apply? This is really called the Bridge and BridgeTech REDI Fellowships Program. So there will be an emphasis on those who are Bridge and BridgeTech alumni or current participants, or are in some way associated and strongly associated with the programs. So all I can say then is that would be one of our criteria for really looking at applications, not as a definite, but certainly as a ranking. However, I will point out that we take Bridge and BridgeTech participants each year, and we will be doing so over the next few years. We take a minimum of 180 people a year. So we'll be opening up again for next year and for the next few years as well. So there are still possibilities that people who are interested in fellowships and haven't actually done either program and want to, can do so. So they'll be available as well. And I think I've probably covered most of the questions here, although there might have been a couple more stuck in. I know that Erica had to leave, and we're probably getting serious towards the end of timing here. But I just want to say the information has all been uploaded. There'll be questions that you can ask us if you have any further questions to ask. And also, yeah, I think I've probably covered most of the things here, and I just want to finish off by saying, look, thank you so much, Dan, for joining us. Thank you, Anand, for an excellent presentation, and thank you, Stephen, for an excellent presentation. And sorry, Erica, that you're not here, but I'm going to say that as well. Thank you, Erica, also for an excellent presentation. And just remember, we have a website, information is up there, EOIs are open from today, and we're also happy to answer any additional questions if we didn't manage to get to all of those questions now. So on that note, I just want to thank everyone for joining us and my team for facilitating this, and look forward to looking at REDI fellowship recipients down the track. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, Lynn. Bye.
Bye, everyone.